Shalom. Our scripture reading for today is Exodus chapter 9, verses 1 through 5. Then Yahweh said unto Moshe, Go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, Thus says Yahweh Elohim of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and will hold them still, behold, the hand of Yahweh is upon thy cattle which is in the field, upon the horses, upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain, and Yahweh shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and there shall nothing die of all that is the children of Israel. And Yahweh appointed a set time, saying, Tomorrow Yahweh shall do this thing in the land.
Shabbat Shalom family, our selection today, Go Down Moshe.
When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oh, press so hard they could not stand. Let my people go.
Go down, Moshe.
Go down.
My Enemy, Myself by Eunice Yisrael. Trying to walk the righteous path, I sometimes feel I'm losing my grasp. Temptation on the left, temptation on the right. Evil plagues me both day and night, creeping into my thoughts, trying to make me lose sight of the things I've learned, the things I know are right. It's like I can't seem to shake it. Everywhere I go, it's always there, following my footsteps like a shadow. But what is a shadow? But an extension of oneself. And suddenly it occurs to me that I am my worst enemy. Fighting this war against myself is the worst. Oh Yahweh, I pray, deliver me from this curse. How I long for this day, when my heart will be new, and my mind will too, bidding evil thoughts adieu, saying hallelujah, when his righteous laws and judgments are etched permanently within my circumcised heart. Then new life will begin. But until then, I will keep working, keep watching, keep waiting, keep fighting. My greatest enemy, myself.
All right. Now, as we gather for the purpose of keeping the Passover, it is imperative that we understand the suffering of the Lamb that brings forth the atonement of our sins. It is the Lamb's blood that covers us. This Lamb, who has committed nothing worthy of death, is slain that we might live, and live more abundantly. It is written, a righteous man regards the life of his beast. If we are to consider the life of the natural beast, how much more should we consider the life of the spiritual Lamb of Elohim? The blood of the Lamb was natural in our father's time, but it is highly spiritual in ours. Let's begin tonight's sermon in Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 14. Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 14. And this is the blood of the Lamb, Passover 2024.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Right, so the beginning of our year was never in January. Because we find as we read these things, there's growth happening. There's absolutely nothing growing in January. So not only were we given a incorrect time of the year, but then we were also given the worship of that God that they served during that time. Go ahead.
Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man, according to his eating, shall make your account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood, and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I'll pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I'll execute judgment. I am Yahweh.
Yahweh is executing this judgment on his time. It is time for the children of Israel to be redeemed, and Egypt must be dealt with. But even after this, Yahweh says, I will send you into Egypt again. And here we are. If we pay attention, the most circulated denomination of currency is their dollar. And that dollar has what on the back? A pyramid. Why does that dollar have a pyramid on it? We're a long way from physical Egypt. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I'll pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
He says that he was going to execute judgment against even the land and the gods of Egypt. On the back of that dollar is the all-seeing eye of Horus, an Egyptian god. Not only is there a pyramid, but there's an Egyptian god. So consider what our Elohim is dealing with. He has his people, and we walking around with another god in our pocket. Matter of fact, we work all day and night so we can get that god in our pocket. Not only do we have this God, but if we work and then they pay us with another God, are we not serving that God? You serve to get paid, and they pay you with the picture of another God. Here you go, congratulations. You have performed your service. Here's Horus. So even when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, you see, we still need redeeming. Because at our best, we're still serving another God. Let them don't have that money right. We call in HR. Excuse me, I didn't have the right amount of gods. When I check my account. See, there's the things that we know about. And there's that other stuff where Yahweh is dealing on a whole nother level that we ain't even thought about yet. Jump to verse 21.
Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning.
None of you shall go out of his house. Once you are under the blood, you stay under the blood. Don't leave out from up under the blood. Now that's deeper than what we understand. Once you are under the blood, don't get out from up under it. See, some of us got some other things that we want to do in life, so we'll put the blood on pause. So we can go and achieve and do some other things that we want to happen in our life. So we put the blood on pause. Go ahead.
You know, brother, I asked you a question in Bible study, and you just answered that question unknowingly. When I asked you about when you get a baptism in Yahshua's name and then you go do the Jesus, you just got up from under the blood.
You walked from up under the blood. I mean, you can walk out from up under the blood without getting another baptism. You have just made it, you yelled that you were out from up under the blood when you decided to go back and get a baptism in the name of Jesus after being baptized in the name of Yahshua. So there are easier ways to come out from up under the blood. Go ahead.
For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in onto your houses to smite you. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. And it shall come to pass, when you be come to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, What mean you by this service? That you shall say, It is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed their head and worshiped.
Right. Now, clearly, Yahweh is making sure that the angel understand that there's a distinction, that there is a separation, there is a sanctification between the children of Israel and the people of Egypt. So then there must be a difference. So when you see this blood pass over those houses, here we are in the land of Egypt, constantly trying to look just like everybody else. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel went away, and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle.
Right. Yahweh has now sanctified all the firstborn unto him. Because at this point, he saved all the firstborn of the children of Israel. Now, not knowing it, we got a debt now. Go ahead.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh, as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men.
Now, we have to pay attention to how Yahweh has set up things in the past, because he has a tendency to do the same things again. So we have to pay attention to how this was given unto us at the first. We have all of these people going to forums and all of these things talking about, we should receive reparations. They ain't getting their reparations until they're on their way out. Because if we get it here, we give it right back to these people. We still go out of this land completely broke. And then if they pay us in dollars, so you gonna pay me in your gods? No. Give us gold, give us diamonds. These things translate into real money. I don't know what those pictures of your God, I can't take those. He says, even the gold and silver that has your images on it, detest it. Throw it away. So when we get ready to go unto him, coming out of here, we got to have something better than that. Especially if the land going to get dealt with. The money ain't going to be no good soon as we turn our back. Go ahead.
And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians.
All right, jump to verse 43.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof.
Right. So then there has to be some kind of connection before one can take part into that Passover. We get the same thing in the New Testament. Being under the blood is being baptized in the name of Yahshua. If you have not done those things, then you cannot partake of that body and that blood of Yahshua. So he just took those requirements and he put them on a spiritual level. Go ahead.
A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall be eaten. You shall not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Check that out. Look at how deep the requirement was for a stranger to take part in the Passover. Let all his males. Now, why would he require all the males? I mean, if there's this individual in this house and this individual said, you know, I want to partake in the things that the Hebrews are dealing with, why does all the males have to have this? So then you have to start looking at some of those situations where the children of Israel are getting ready to go to war. And he said, look, if somebody have a fearful heart, let them turn back. Because they're going to turn the hearts of their brethren. So when we in a house and we got half that want to walk and half that don't want to walk, what's going to happen there? We have possibilities. He said, before they can keep it, let all his males be circumcised. That's a commitment. Go ahead.
One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
All right. So let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, and let's start that at verse 24.
And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do you, as oft as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Adonai's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Adonai unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Adonai.
Whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Adonai unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Adonai. So then we have to consider. Go ahead.
But let a man examine himself.
Let a man examine himself. This self-examination. Go ahead.
And so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eats and drinks unworthily eats and drinks damnation to himself, not discerning the Adonai's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged.
Now, this is an enormous power that is given unto us. If we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. It would behoove us to deal with matters before we end up in court. See, if we have a situation and we are able to judge ourselves of that situation, when it then comes down to Yahweh dealing with us, then now we have an opportunity for him to say, you know, I was going to deal with you, but I see how you dealt with yourself, so I'm going to let that slide. That's an amazing opportunity. Go ahead.
But when we are judged, we are chastened of the Adonai, that we should not be condemned with the world.
So the chastisement has a purpose, and the purpose is not to destroy us. The purpose is to get us back on the right path so that we won't be condemned with the world. Some of the things that we think are good we'll find out that those things are evil. We want to be like the nations, that they can do wrong and nothing happens to them. And we think that is amazing. We think that is a blessing until the day of payment comes. See, every man shall get paid for his deeds. So if he keeps allowing you to do enormous amounts of wrong, guess what? You got a payment coming. And you can't possibly make that payment. So what would be better? That he chastise you, you run into trouble, you try to do this wrong, and then every time you try and something happens, you get discouraged and stop the wrong. There go your blessing. All blessings don't look good. I don't care what somebody told you. There's some blessings that look absolutely horrible because you was on your way to doing something. And he stopped you in the ugliest fashion. Blessing. But it takes us a while to see those kind. Let's go to Numbers chapter 9. You know what? Go ahead and start that at verse 1.
Numbers chapter 9 and verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe in the wilderness in Sinai in the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at this appointed season. In the 14th day of this month at even, you shall keep it in his appointed season. According to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof, shall you keep it.
It says that it is supposed to be kept at his appointed season. Now, we know that with all of the atrocities of man, the seasons are starting to get blurry. In a whole lot of places where there's normally a whole lot of snow, they haven't gotten it. It's not cold enough. So then what they have to do then is try to manufacture a way to drive off this heat. And it's altering the weather. But Yahweh has his holy days based around those seasons. Man has done so much evil that he now is hell-bent on altering Yahweh's seasons. There's an enormous clash coming between man and Yah. Go ahead.
Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at his appointed season. In the 14th day of this month at even, you shall keep it in his appointed season. According to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof, shall you keep it. And Moshe spake unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover. And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at even in the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did the children of Israel. And there were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day. And they came before Moshe and before Aaron on that day. And those men said unto him, We are defiled by the dead body of a man. Wherefore are we kept back, that we may not offer an offering unto Yahweh in his appointed season among the children of Israel? And Moshe said unto them, Stand still, and I'll hear what Yahweh will command concerning you.
Stand still, and I will hear what Yahweh will command concerning you. Sometimes there arises something that you have to pause and say, you know what, I need to seek Yahweh on this. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto Yahweh. The 14th day of the second month at even, they shall keep it, and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor break any bone of it. According to all the ordinances of the Passover, they shall keep it. But the man that is clean, and is not in a journey, and forbears to keep the Passover, even the same soul shall be cut off from among his people, because he brought not the offering of Yahweh in his appointed season, that man shall bear his sin. And if a stranger shall sojourn among you, and will keep the Passover unto Yahweh according to the ordinance of the Passover, and according to the manner thereof, so shall he do. You shall have one ordinance, both for the stranger and for him that was born in the land.
All right. So then we have to consider that this is the beginning of all of Yahweh's holy days, and it is the only one that he offers a secondary situation in case somebody is unclean by reason of a dead body. Because if we have a nation, then we always have work that has to be done. There's always some things that may be happening. So this then, Yahweh has put in an amendment so that those individuals won't be cut off. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. And you notice that this is dealing with males. Just like when you have this situation of all males make an appearance. So a lot of times we get caught up into things, especially when you have this newfound situation of a woman can do everything that a man can do. Well, no, that's not accurate. There's some things you shouldn't be trying to do. See, there's certain load-bearing things that Yahweh has commanded those males to deal with. And if there's not a male in that house, then Yahshua takes care of that business. Deuteronomy chapter 16, and let's start that at verse 1.
Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yahweh your Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your Elohim brought you forth out of Egypt by night.
So we know that this then is that season. You know, when you have the beginning growth, we know that that season has changed. Now we're dealing with what they call spring. Growth is happening. All of Yahweh's holy days are based on the growing and cultivating of crops. Go ahead.
You shall therefore sacrifice the Passover unto Yahweh your Elohim of the flock and the herd, in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For you came forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. And there shall be no leavened bread be seen with you in all your coasts. 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh which you sacrifice the first day at even remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates, which Yahweh your Elohim gives you.
Now, that does not mean that we cannot partake in the Passover. The one thing we have to pay attention to when it comes down to, is the place close enough for you in the place where he placed his name? If not, then you then have the ability to partake in those things. This is why we deal with having a broadcast. We have family that are spread all over the country and a few outside the country. But that's not the same thing as us who down the street and decide that, you know, we just gonna deal with that how we want to deal with it. He does not give us a pass on that. Let's go to Mark chapter 14. See, when we go through and just remember, you know, all of the turmoil that Yahshua endured, the very things that we read earlier in the Sabbath service. When we look at how much he had to go through, at what point do we say, you know, I'm not willing to go through all of this to partake? But we want that blood to cleanse us. But we have limitations on what we're willing to deal with. Mark chapter 14, and I want to read verses 13 through 17.
And he sends forth 2 of his disciples, and says unto them, Go you into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wheresoever he shall go in, say you to the good man of the house, The master says, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room furnished and prepared. There make ready for us.
Mm-hmm.
And his disciples went forth and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And in the evening he comes with the 12.
And in the evening he comes with the 12, but here we are. Yahshua is keeping this Passover, but it's not at a holy place. He's having Passover at an individual's house. Yahweh said you must keep this in a place where he chose to place his name there. But his name is there because Yahshua there. See, there's some things that we have to consider. This is why there are some rules and regulations that we have to abide by, so that we make it available for the Spirit to come and join and sup with us. Brother, read that note on the next graphic for me.
Jeremiah chapter 7 and verse 12. But go you now unto my place which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel.
So the key thing is there, but go now unto the place which was. Why is there was? He said unto the place where I set my name at the first. If those rules and regulations are not followed, he removed his name. His name ain't at every place because they know how to spell. Because they can put a sign out by the door. His name is where his spirit is welcomed. If we don't take care of certain things, the spirit is not welcome there. He removes his name. So for us to be constant in dealing in a place where his name is, that means we have some rules and regulations that we're going to enforce. It ain't about likes and dislikes. It's about making sure that that spirit feel welcome. So Yahweh said to even the soldiers when they were on their war campaign, he said, make sure you have a paddle on the end of your weapon so that when you ease yourself abroad, you can dig in the earth and cover that which come forth from you. Because if Yahweh see any uncleanness among you, because he walks among your camp to deliver you. But if he see that, he going to step away and walk away from you. So that means there's a certain order that we have to have so that we don't drive the spirit away. And sometimes we're trying to keep people. And those people are what's driving the spirit away. Yahweh showed it 2 times in dealing with Abraham. Didn't start the covenant until he separated him from his father. didn't go on the next level in growing the covenant until he separated him from Lot. There was people stopping that spirit. There's people stopping him from moving on that next level. Sometimes that cleanliness is a thing. Sometimes it may be a person. And then we got a decision that we got to make. Let's go to Genesis chapter 9. Genesis chapter 9, and we're going to start that at verse 19.
These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant.
Right. And now you look at verse 27. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, the Gentile, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. Ain't he? And Canaan shall be his servant. Don't they get everything from Africa? Okay. Go ahead.
That was it, verse 27.
What I want you to do, let's go to, now jump to chapter 4. And it's interesting how we'll deal with some of these curses, but others we won't. Genesis chapter 4, let's read verses 9 through 12.
And Yahweh said unto Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries unto me from the ground. And now are you cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto you her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall you be in the earth.
Right. So then the shedding of blood then causes this curse. It's very interesting that folks will try to link a curse to one entity, yet they have killed all over the earth and don't consider that blood that they have shed is calling out upon them. So how do they reconcile their murder? They say, oh, these ain't people. So I can shed their blood and not be cursed. But these other people are cursed. Wait. The curse came from shedding blood from something you want. Now tell me if going off to other lands, saying that you want those lands, how is that different from Cain? That you have waged a war because you want something that somebody else had. Cain definitely wanted something that somebody else had. He wanted his brother's relationship that Yahweh had. He wanted that same acceptance that his brother got. So he figured if I kill my brother, I'll have that relationship with Yahweh. Shedding of blood has him cursed. It's amazing how people who have killed all over the earth will never talk about themselves being cursed. Go ahead.
That was it.
Let's go now to Deuteronomy chapter 21. Because there's some other curses that we don't want to deal with. Deuteronomy 21, and I want you to read verses 22 and 23.
And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but you shall in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of Elohim.
Wait a minute. So being hung on a tree is a curse in itself. All right, keep reading.
That your land be not defiled, which Yahweh your Elohim gives you for an inheritance.
Okay, now, when you leave the body of one hanged on a tree, you have now defiled the land. There were so many bodies hanging from the trees in this land that there was a song written called Strange Fruit. They didn't take those bodies down. So this land is greatly defiled. But Yahweh decides when he's going to deal with that judgment. So regardless as of all the other things that have taken place, this one act has defiled the land greatly. And according to what's written, the land can only be cleansed by shedding the blood of him that defiled it. So now you hung a man for whatever reason you thought you had, but you left him there. When you left him there, it can't be his blood that shed. He's dead. Now the land has been defiled. Now the executioner has now come into judgment. See, understanding Yahweh's law is quite interesting. Let's go to Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10, and let's read verses 37 through 40.
Acts chapter 10 and verse 37. That word, I say, you know, which was published throughout all Judea, and began from Galilee after the baptism which Johanan preached, how Elohim anointed Yahshua of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power, who went about doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for Elohim was with him. And we are witnesses of all things which he did both in the land of the Yehudims and in Jerusalem, whom they slew and hanged on a tree.
Wait a minute. They slew him and hung him on a tree. They like to give us one picture of that, but they purposely avoid the picture of that also connects to us. Why don't they ever talk about how much Christ was cursed? Go ahead.
Him Elohim raised up the third day and showed him openly.
Read the note from Acts 5.
Acts chapter 5 and verse 30. The Elohim of our fathers raised up Yahshua, whom you slew and hanged on a tree.
Okay, so here we go again, that it is being said openly that the Mashiach was hung on a tree. It says, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. So when they talk about how people might have been cursed one color, how is it that Christ never comes up in there? Matter of fact, they say his color don't even matter. They say it don't matter what color he is. Well, wait a minute. Now we have to consider, as we take a part in the body and the blood of the Mashiach, understand what we're dealing with here. You're dealing with all of the suffering that he has gone through, but then we have to deal with that curse part. Now, why did he specifically put this curse on Yahshua? See, Israel were given blessings and curses. And nobody wants to have a conversation about the curse. Everybody want to talk about blessing, blessing, blessing. But we see a connection with Yahshua and this curse. Let's go to Galatians chapter 3. Galatians chapter 3. And we're going to read verses 10 through 14.
Verse 10. For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, cursed is every one that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them.
Now, if you don't know no better, you're going to let somebody tell you that keeping the commandments, that you have placed yourself under the curse. Understand what's being said here. For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. What that means? When you believe that animal has to be sacrificed, still for atonement, then you're under that curse. Don't let anybody tell you. See, this is the part where the slick twisting of the word comes. Go ahead.
But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of Elohim, it is evident, for the just shall live by faith.
Right. Because when you have the faith of the law in Yahshua, then you have faith that his death is your forever sacrifice. And there's no greater sacrifice that can be found. So as we read all of those things about the Passover, and we read about how they have to eat it in one place. They can't carry it from this place to the next place. And if you don't eat this, it has to be burnt up. That's their sacrifice. You need to understand that the lamb we finna have tonight ain't our sacrifice. I got a better sacrifice than what's in that pot. So let's not get things twisted when we see things and think that, oh, this is our sacrifice. No, we got a much greater sacrifice than that. Matter of fact, we about to take part in the body and the blood of our sacrifice. Make sure we understand that. Go ahead.
And the law is not of faith, but the man that does them shall live in them. Yahshua has redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us.
Check that out. He was made a curse for us. Why don't we ever hear about Yahshua being a curse? When they talk about how somebody was cursed black, what color was Yahshua cursed? You should ask that question next time somebody say about being cursed black. So what color was he cursed? Because according to multiple places in this book, it says he was made a curse for us. Go ahead.
For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangs on a tree.
Cursed is everyone that hangs on a tree. Now we got a problem. They don't want to mention those things. Why? Because, wait a minute. Somehow we suffered the same curse as our God, King, High Priest. Wait a minute. We don't find pictures of other entities hanging from trees. That ends up being us. Now, how is it that we can read about the Mashiach being hung on a tree And then we can find the images of us hanging on the tree. Not just images of us hanging on the tree. But if you go to some of the most famous pictures, you find them dressed in their Sunday best while those people are hanging from those trees. So what happened? They came right out of church and all gathered together and hung those people. And then left their bodies there. So when our God King High Priest returns, this is why he ain't coming back for no love fest. All that has to be dealt with. Everything that Yahshua did, he was doing according to the law and how it was written. So when he returns, he's returning according to the law. Judgment has to be dealt with. Did you finish that?
That the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Yahshua HaMashiach, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith.
All right, let's go to John chapter 6. It says, when you take part in these things, you do show Yahshua's death. And we're supposed to have a special connection to that. Because our people suffered the same way. It's kind of interesting that we can go and find a connection with how the Mashiach died and how our people here died. Now, if he wanted to make a connection, I mean, he could have, he could have like sent Yahshua to a gas chamber or something and then connected to somebody. But that's not what he did. Now, why didn't he do that? Why did he make his death just like the sufferings that we have here? That's mighty peculiar. Mighty peculiar. John chapter 6, and let's read verses 48 through 58.
I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. The Yehudims then strove among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Yahshua said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, except you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoso eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I'll raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed.
All right. And it says, I will raise him up at the last day. That goes directly against the heaven doctrine that we have been receiving all our lives. Go ahead.
He that eats my flesh and drinks my blood dwells in me, and I in him. As the living Father has sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eats me, even he shall live by me. This is that bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna and are dead. He that eats of this bread shall live forever.
All right. Now let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Luke chapter 22. And if you had just tuned in today and did not listen to the earlier sermon or Bible study, I encourage you to go back so that you can get an understanding of these things, of why we do what we do. Luke chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 14 through 20.
And when the hour was come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said unto them, with desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer.
I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. But understanding that I have to do this for you. Go ahead.
For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of Elohim. And he took the cup and gave thanks and said, Take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of Elohim shall come. And he took the bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave it unto them, saying, This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. Likewise also the cup after supper, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you.
This is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. So when we take part in these things, we have to understand just how much weight this covers. This is just not something that you hear of other organizations that partake in these things every month. He says, as often as you do this in remembrance of me. We know when that's supposed to be done. It is supposed to be done in his appointed season. As it is written, let every man, examine himself, whether or not he should take part in that body, in that blood. If you have not been baptized in the name of Yeshua, then you do not get into that line to take part in the body of the blood. As it is written, this brings damnation on some without them even understanding what it is they are doing. And because we have several different things that we are going to do tonight, that is all that we're going to do as far as the sermon. We're going to prepare for the body and the blood. We're going to have our meal, and we are going to have our foot washing part. All of that is going to be done tonight. So that's all we're doing for tonight. Enjoy your feast. Shalom.
Shalom.